Everyone asks you about your father, which is pretty obvious, but I'm going to ask you about another sports hero, Tim Tebow. Go.
Honestly, I was a big fan of Tim Tebow growing up. I was a huge fan of watching him play as a football player, and there was a Sports Illustrated magazine that came out, and there was a poster in it. And I ripped it out, and it's been on my wall since about 8th grade, 7th grade. So I've been waking up to that since I was that young, and playing against him in baseball is pretty fun.
Did you want to be Tim Tebow instead of being Craig Biggio?
I played football and I wasn't a quarterback, so no, I never wanted to be Tim Tebow, but I just admired the competitor that he was and, the winner that he was.
Of all the things that your father accomplished, I think playing in the same organization his whole career is one that really stands out to me. Is that something that, you're a part of the Blue Jays organization, and if it's possible, I know the game has changed a lot, but do you marvel over the fact that somebody could be with an organization that long?
Oh, for sure. It's not like my dad didn't have any opportunities to go elsewhere. He's free agent a number of times, and he did the whole free agency recruiting thing, and he stayed in Houston because it was his home, it was our home, and everything worked out to where they had a good team, and he just was a Houston guy and just loved being in the organization and the whole team, and I think it's really cool. Not a lot of players find that in the organization that they're drafted in, and I think my dad got really lucky and he made the most of what it was, and the organization was really good to him. And for me, I see that with myself here in Toronto. There's a lot of good people in this organization, and the fans seem amazing up in Toronto, and we get a lot of support from them here. And I would want nothing more than to have that with Toronto, what my dad did.
Having grown up in the game and being around the ballparks and being around so many other major league players and their kids, were you still in a pinch me moment the first time you attended a major league spring training?
Yeah, for sure. It's a little bit different. I've been to countless numbers of major league spring trainings, like you said. I even in the dugout being a bat boy during spring training. I had been around it, I'd seen it, but playing in a couple last spring training and this spring training, it's pretty cool when you're going out there and you're playing and you're going in there and you're hitting, and it's like you said, yeah, it's different just because it's something that when I was a kid I was in there and I was like, I want to do this, and then now I am doing it, and so yeah, it's a little bit of a pinch me moment.
See, I know growing up as a kid, there was a kid who lived in our street, and he had the pool, and everybody was jealous because he had the pool. You had a lot more than a pool. What was it like with all the other kids? Were people envious? Were people wanting to hang out with you because of your dad? Oh, take me to the ball game. What was that like for you?
I had a lot of close friends from a very early age, and I'm still pretty close to them to this day, and I just wanted to be a regular kid, honestly. I was always spending time at their house, and they'd come over and they wouldn't really think anything of it just because they knew me since I was in pre-K, and they knew who my dad was, and my dad to them was just another one of their friends' fathers. So they were just as respectful. They treated me as if I was one of the other guys. So sometimes you did have those kids that wanted to be your friend because of my dad, but I think it's safe to say they're not one of my closest friends to this day. So, but yeah, I just wanted to be a normal kid growing up, and I had some pretty close friends that treated me that way.
Do you remember the moment or even the age you were at when it finally hit you just how big a deal your dad was and is?
I was just a huge baseball fan for as long as I can remember, and it all started just knowing the Astros, knowing everything about the Astros, and then I got kind of older. I knew the game a little bit more, watched a little bit more ESPN, and I did begin to realize, especially when they started going to the playoffs, and playoff baseball is just so incredibly intense, and everybody gets into it, and he was at the heart of that, and I guess you can say those times where it was just like, okay, like my dad's a leadoff hitter for, top team in the big leagues, and he's been doing it for 15, 20 years, so yeah, I think once I started to learn more about the game, it became more knowledgeable.
How do you draw the line between embracing the fact that your dad is a Hall of Famer and also trying to carve out your own identity as a player? Because at some point you have to stand out on your own, but on the other side of the coin, I mean, you got to own the fact that who your dad is.
Yeah, I mean, you got to separate it as best as you can, even though, like you said, you got to embrace it as well. So I guess from a standpoint where you got to separate it is, I'm my own player, and, you just talk to Bo, and Bo's going to tell him I'm not like Dante. So, like, we're here in Double-A, and, we're kind of carving out our own careers for ourselves. And, I think our fathers, just especially my dad, he helped raise me, and then the way I was raised helped me to become myself and become my own player that I am. But yeah, like you said, embrace the name. I mean, he's one of the greatest to ever play the game. He's a Hall of Famer, and it'd be dumb not to use him as a resource throughout my journey when I was a younger kid, and even to where I am now. So, we're separate players, but I still use him along the way.
In 2013, you're drafted by the Phillies, but you instead decide to go to Notre Dame, and it's 3 years later before you're drafted again. How vital was school to you, and how much of it had to do with mom and dad saying, we want you to go to school? Because at that age, you'd think when somebody's flashing that kind of money and that kind of an opportunity to make it possibly to the big leagues, it's hard to say no.
Oh, for sure. I never really thought about getting drafted out of high school. I always wanted to go to college, and once, obviously my dream is to play Major League Baseball. It was never really to play college baseball. So once a few teams kind of threw it in my face, like, hey, here's an opportunity. It was a little hard to just kind of be like, oh, like, I'm just going to go to college. But I think my mom was more the voice of reason there, where my dad was just wanting me to do what I wanted to do, and my mom was more on the side that she knew that college was the best for me. And, those 3 years at Notre Dame, they were very vital to not only my development as a player, but it's my first time being on loan as a person, living on my own. I moved to South Bend, Indiana, grew up in Texas. I had no family there. I had to make some friends. I actually had my brother there, but still, like he was on his own too, and we kind of got through it together. And I think those 3 years were incredibly vital just to make me more mature of a person and handle the lifestyle of being a minor league baseball player in general.
Tell me about the memory of when you heard your name called and you were drafted by the Blue Jays and that whole experience for you.
Well, the whole draft day, it was just kind of a frustrating process where you're just sitting there and you just want to get drafted. You just hear names get called over and over again. It's just like, oh man, like just want to get picked and it be over with. And we got a phone call by the Blue Jays, and they asked me if I would take a certain amount of money, and I agreed to it. I just wanted to go play. And a couple minutes later, I heard my brother's voice.
Okay, I want to stop you there. You heard your brother's voice. For those who aren't aware of this story, because I know about this story, but for those who aren't, why did you hear your brother's voice?
Well, he was working at MLB at the time in the commissioner's office, and one of his bosses was just like, hey, if your brother gets picked today, would you like to call out his draft ID number? And he was like, absolutely. So I had no idea. My mom knew about it because they were texting back and forth. And she was just like, hey, like, watch the computer real quick and listen. And I was like, that's Connor, huh? I was like, yeah, that is.
Probably as big of a moment for him as it was for you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, we played together our whole lives, especially high school. And then I would go to Notre Dame and play with him for 2 years. Me and my brother were really close. We grew up doing everything together, especially, with my dad being away. And, we always relied on each other to get better and practice with each other. And so even though he's not playing anymore, he's had a huge, vital part in my career and my upcoming as a person.
The Fisher Cats seem to get a little more attention than a lot of AA teams would, and because there's a lot of names that people recognize on this team. How much fun are you having being part of this and maybe getting a little bit more attention than most AA teams would get?
Honestly, the attention isn't really what's fun about it. It's just, coming out every day and having this team. We're a lot of fun to come to the ballpark every day. Like, a long baseball season can be really monotonous and, same thing every day, BP. But, we have a lot of guys that keep it exciting. Our manager, John Schneider, he likes to keep things interesting, as in not having everything every day. He likes to have a lot of feel with the game and the way the season comes. And, like you said, Bo, Vladdy, and I, we're just a small part of this team. We got a lot of great players on this team. You look at, Vladdy and ours RBIs, we hit back-to-back, and, it's not possible with guys like Jonathan Davis at the top of the order, grinding out at bats, getting on base, stealing bases, and, providing us to score, to drive them in. So, and then the guys behind me like Max Pentecost and Harold Ramirez that are having great years, it's just, it's just we can beat you in a lot of ways, and it's just a lot of fun to be a part of it.
And then you look at the pitching staff, and Jordan Romano's been on our show quite a few times, and he's such a good guy as well. And I don't remember a Blue Jays team, and I've been around the Jays for many, many years, but I don't remember when you've had a group of players that have the potential to grow through the system together and all kind of make their debuts around the same time. Do you guys ever kind of get together and imagine what the future would be like in 2020, 2021 when, you guys could all be on the team together after growing up together in this organization?
I don't think it's really something that we talk about, just because we know that it is an opportunity and a possibility. So we work at it. You know, we try and get better every day to make that goal a reality. So, you know, coming up together, you know, last year we won a championship in High A. You know, Jordan, you know, Bo and I and a couple of other guys on this team. It's just that, you know, we every year, every game, you know, we get more comfortable playing with each other. We get more familiar with playing with each other, and you know, it just makes it more fun. And when he makes it more fun, we do get better, and you know, we perform better. And you know, I think if we can keep doing this and then move up along the organization and then make it in the big leagues and you know, kind of set the tone what we've been doing down here up in the big leagues, you know, I think we could have something very special.
Well, Cavan, I think that Blue Jay fans are just as excited as you guys are down here for the future. Listen, thank you so much for doing this, and all the best the rest of the way.
Appreciate it.